I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Dan Calonge. Dan is the head of learning and development for a technology company based in Lexington, Kentucky. He also invests in large apartment complexes and a managing partner of Avanza Investments. Dan, as I mentioned before, I don't like to read people's bio because I think your story sounds way better coming from you. So first off, thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate having you.
Yeah, excited to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah. And so why don't you tell us your background? Tell us, start wherever you want to start, and then we'll take it from there and dive deeper on whatever topics seem interesting.
Sure. Well, I've got a sort of a unique background in that I'm the first generation in the U.S. in my family. My parents both fled Cuba in 1960 when Fidel Castro took over, and they had no plans on leaving, but they saw the political changes going on, and they ended up coming to the U.S. and my dad was 11, my mom was 14, and they met in the U.S. And so for me, it was, and I was born shortly thereafter, not too long afterwards. So it's been, I've been sort of the test case for my family because they're not really sure what, how things work necessarily initially. But it's been a really neat ride. I've got two younger brothers too and we have done well as a family. We've gotten ourselves situated here, and I ended up going to college and studying engineering, which I tried for a couple of years and wasn't crazy about. So I switched to business and got an MBA, and then I worked in the technology industry for, I think right now, about 25 years or so. And I'm not the typical technology, developer or something like that. I've always been on the soft side of the business. So marketing, human resources, a lot of the work that I do today is dealing with people and helping maximize the potential people have, which to me is just a lot of fun. And so that's been my career up to this point. But I've lived in a lot of cities. I've lived in Miami, Florida, Seattle, Washington, Austin, Texas, Michigan, and now I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. So it's good round trip, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've seen a good part of the country. I too have moved around a lot, work related. So I've had my tour of the country. Sometimes not involuntarily, but due to job relocation type of things. So so we'll definitely obviously talk your real estate as well. But let's just dive in a little bit on your background in that your parents coming from Cuba is a really interesting, compelling sort of, backstory to have. That's obviously a different perspective than people would have that, were born here or and their family generations, things like that. They've always sort of been here. And so I often think that, I think as Americans, we complain a lot, honestly. Like I think we complain a lot, we take things for granted. And so I had a number of people, on the show that I always feel like there's a sense of, I don't know if it's gratefulness or that's not the right word, but just understanding of the opportunities that are available, and really being excelling at going after those opportunities.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Do you, obviously your parents had to come here and make a life. Like it's a you and I have moved a lot, but it's like there's a lot of people that never leave their hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And so there certainly some resistance to that. So, I mean, how do you, I like to talk about mindset. I'm just kind of interested in how that has impacted you, how that has impacted your approach to life in general. And we'll talk about it in real estate as well. But I did want to kind of hit that first.
Yeah, it's a great observation because you're exactly right. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunities that I have here, because I know if I would have been in Cuba, things would have been a lot different. And I still have family there. I was there about 5 years ago and saw some of them, and it's pretty sad, pretty depressing when you're there. Not a lot of opportunities to do much. There's a fixed salary that everybody in the country gets, regardless if you're a doctor or a taxi driver. It doesn't matter. It's sort of the communist model, right? Everybody's the same. So there's not a whole lot of desire to move ahead, because in that environment, it doesn't. Why? So the fact that my family came here, and then also thanks to the generosity of people in this country that helped my family get situated and get accustomed to being here. For me, it's one of my biggest passions now is helping the immigrants that are coming now to this country, because I see their story is very, very similar to my story. And I feel like I owe them, I owe help to them, to help them situate and get comfortable with this country. And it's guided a lot of what I do. And I didn't mention in my intro, but I'm very involved with the largest social services agency targeting immigrants, really, in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm on the advisory council, and we meet a lot and talk about what's going on, what are we seeing, who's coming in the country, how can what are the issues we're seeing, how can we help, and it's been very fulfilling. So gratitude is a big deal to me, it's another twist to that as well. Is I worked for 7 years in Latin America, so I didn't mention that in my intro either. But since I'm fluent in Spanish, I worked for a number of years for a large multinational company, and I would travel throughout Mexico, Brazil, Chile, and Argentina, mostly those countries, and I would see firsthand poverty that is pretty striking. You'll see a shack next to this incredibly beautiful building, and this kind of dichotomy everywhere you go is really something that always reminded me as well. It's like, wow, I've got it good. So for me, I'm always trying to think about what I could do for that community that's coming here, and for me, again, like I said earlier, it's really about just helping others the way that we were helped. I don't know who helped us. I have no idea. I wasn't alive. But, my grandfather was able to, he was an attorney in Cuba. He couldn't be an attorney in the US because of the different legal system. So he ended up getting a master's and a PhD in Spanish and just taught Spanish in college. That was his thing. But there was a lot of help that we had along the way. And so, I feel indebted to people like that. And which is the reason why, with my real estate focus now, I've got a lot of emphasis on that side of it. So it's been an interesting journey so far. And yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, that's amazing. I think one of the coolest things I've experienced and sort of picked up from people I talk to on the show, or like people I meet at conferences and whatnot, there seems to be such a sense of giving back and impact in the real estate community. And I mean, seems like that's ingrained in who you are. I don't know that real estate necessarily changed that for you, but again, we'll get into, sort of the avenues of what that can open up for you. So just before we get there, you said in your sort of technology career, you're more in the sales side of things, correct?
Well, currently I'm actually in human resources and learning and development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you're dealing with people. Essentially,
Yeah.
that's your, we'll get to how that, I guess, applies to how you feel it applies in your real estate career. But before that, tell me, so when did you make that switch, or kind of what's your transition into real estate been like?
Great question. So, I had always heard about real estate for years. I think a lot of us have, and right around the time that COVID started, we sent all of our employees home. My company has thousands of employees, and we sent everybody home, and we couldn't go out, couldn't do anything, right? So, as when that happened, I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity to start really learning about real estate. And so started digging into it, reading, all sorts of books. I mean, I don't know, I read 20, 30 books now on real estate as I started kind of devouring information and understanding it better. And the more I got into it, the more I was like, wow, this is really a neat area that really attracts me. And I could see myself doing this for a career. So kept reading, kept studying, and looking into, for example, okay, well, maybe, like a lot of people think, right? Well, maybe I should get a single family home and rent it out. And, that's kind of how everybody starts. Right. And I think that's a great path. It's not, I think that's certainly something somebody could do. But as I started to read more about kind of what that means and how that happens and talking to people about it, I kept getting encouraged by different folks that are in the industry to say, hey, maybe you should think about going a little bigger out of the gate. And initially that was kind of scary, but because I really didn't know what that really meant. But the more I learned, I connected with others that are in the industry, the more confidence I got that, I can do that. And that's something that, why do I need to start with a single family home or two or three? Why can't I have, a much larger multifamily property? And now, we're doing syndications and all that. And I'm in my second deal right now that we're working on. That's going to close here in about a month in Fort Worth, Texas. So, it's been a lot of fun, and it's something that to me has been really interesting because of the fact that the workforce housing that we're focusing on is the kind of housing where any immigrant might end up living in. It's a very common housing for that kind of person. So, for me, I love the idea of being able to take a property and make changes to it to make it a more livable, more enjoyable place to be, and to think that there's chances are there's families there that are new to the country, and for me that's something that really kind of lit a fire in me to say, well, could I work on the types of housing where these folks live, and I can do investing, which is, what I wanted to do. And I can marry that with the idea of helping others, and how I talked about earlier today. So I saw it as a really neat combination. So my firm is called Avanza Investments. Avanza in Spanish means to advance, to move forward. And that's what I hope I can do for these people that everybody needs a place to live, right? And so having that kind of focus to me was pretty exciting. So,
yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing. And it's are you still working W-2 and also doing,
Yes.
yeah. So you're sort of doing
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that balancing act. I know it well. Remarkable to me how similar our kind of beginnings into real estate were. Cause I had the same thing, like the pandemic came, it didn't specifically go set about thinking I was going to do multifamily syndications. It was just like, yeah, I'll get some single family rentals or whatever. And you start to look at what's involved in that and the ability to scale and all of that. And so, yeah, I did the same thing. I sort of worked through it in my head. And a lot of people they actually do the process. They're like, I'm going to get and then they're like, you know what, I'd rather do multifamily. But I just kind of, fortuitously, I think because of some podcasts I listened to and some books I read, it was just kind of like you said, you just started talking to people and kind of hearing about it. So I wanted to, on that, I did want to ask you directly on that question, like how, where were you making these connections? How were you finding people to talk to you about multifamily real estate stuff? What did you do? Because I think that's an important thing for people that are really in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like, what did you do to get that ball rolling?
Yeah, I mean, in my particular case, I ended up, as you, I listened to a lot of podcasts and just kind of devoured information. So it's kind of cool that you and I have that similar approach. Yeah. And as I was listening to different stuff and talking to different people, I kept hearing this name of this group called GoBundance, which is sort of a men's mastermind kind of thing. And as I learned more about them, I heard that a lot of the guys in that group are real estate people. And so I thought, maybe I'll join that and just see who I can meet that might be in this area and much farther ahead of me that can give me advice and give me, tips. And so I did that shortly after, maybe 6 months after the beginning of COVID. And through that process, I've met a lot of different people that do all sorts of real estate, triple net lease, multifamily, single family, office, retail. I mean, all kinds of different stuff. And for me, it was nice to be able to talk to different people that had different focuses. And I felt, to me, like the way that I could, at least in my mind, I could marry the investing in multifamily with the whole immigrant community thing. To me, that made a good sense, in my mind. Yeah. So that's the direction I ended up going in. But that's how that's how I started to learn. For other, what I recommend if for somebody that's listening, that maybe isn't part of a group, you don't have to be part of a group by any means. I mean, there's all sorts of real estate investing meetups and things like that occur in almost every city. I live in Lexington, Kentucky, which is a pretty small city. And there are like 2 or 3 different sessions like these every month of people that get together that do investing. And so there's definitely people out there to connect with. I took one way, but there's a lot of other ways that you can connect with people and just to pick their brain about what they think, and I really encourage talking to a lot of people. You're going to hear a lot of different things, a lot of different opinions. And then you listen to everything and you think about it and decide what feels right for me. And then pick one thing and go with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, whether it's GoBundance and I do want to ask you a little bit about that because I've heard a lot about it. I've had known other people that are in GoBundance, but it's that concept of, getting in the room with people that are where you want to be, right? They're a little bit ahead of you, getting around those people. It's a, it is when you're making a transition, right? Like whatever you had a previous career, now you're making a transition into, especially something like real estate where there are a lot of different ways to do it. There's also a lot of people who are extremely successful in the space. And so you do have to kind of talk to a lot of them and filter out that noise and figure out what works for me. And like, do I want to be active? Do I want to be passive? Do I want to do multifamily? Do I want to do triple net lease? Do I want to do self-storage? Right. Like there's, a lot of people outside of the space are like, oh, you do real estate. and it's kind of funny because it's like that's like saying you like ice cream, right? It's just like there's a billion different flavors, right? So it's just kind of, you have to figure out how that works for you. And so I also did a mentorship, and I'll go about it, but like, so you started Abundance. And I think what's, you can talk about it more if you want, but I think the point I wanted to make here is you used this downtime, and you made another opportunity, right? You like, instead of just being down about it, you created an opportunity. You went and found out about this group that, could accelerate your path. And you went and did that. And I think that's the step that so many people are just missing. It's like, just do something. And I know Abundance isn't cheap. I don't know what it is. I know there's, these mentorships cost money, that the masterminds cost money, but you invested in yourself. And I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you feel it was well worth it.
Yeah. I mean, the way I looked at it was, this is an investment in me. I don't know how much money I spent on college, and to think that I'm spending a fraction of that to get much more value, frankly. I mean, college was great, don't get me wrong, but because I learned a lot of, if not academic skills, social skills, as you grow up in that kind of environment. But man, I'm getting a lot more value out of a lot less money, and it's not cheap. But then again, if I want to make sure I'm making the right decision, and I'm talking to people and I'm getting to know people that are in the industry, to me, it just made a lot of sense to do. So yeah, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I love the point that you just made, because like not everybody, many people sort of expect that you're going to go to college, or they expect their kids to go to college. They expect you went to college. Like it's like a almost like a requirement of life.
Yeah.
And we'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and go into huge debt for that reason. And it's fine. Like, that's what you want to do. That's fine. But the fact is, you're right. Like, the cost of those masterminds, even the expensive ones, are still far less than a college education. And frankly, college could probably be like 6 months long. It doesn't need to be 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't, like, for the social skills, sure. If you want to, you want to learn those social skills in college, for people, there are certain things, but there's so much in college that's just fluff. And, if you're talking about the true academic value of it, it's 6 months long. It's not 4 years. It doesn't, and that's, and you see that in the like master and PhD programs that are a lot shorter, because it's just focused. It's focused on what you want to do. And that's what these masterminds, mentorships, things like that, that's what will happen for you, is you're focusing on that thing that matters. You don't join GoBundance and they're like, also, we want you to learn how to like play the piano or something like that. If that's not your goal, they don't just throw a bunch of things in to say that you're, well-rounded. It's just get focused on what you want to excel in. And that's what these things help people do, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the great benefits too is that I can learn from other people's mistakes. They can tell me, hey, like I can say, hey, I was thinking about this kind of path, and I actually did that. I talked to some guys, and they flat out said, I don't think that's a good plan. Mm-hmm. And here's why: A, B, and C. And oh, wow, okay, I didn't even think about that. Could I have learned that? Yeah, I could have learned it, but it would have taken me months, if not years, to run into those issues and not see that ahead, because I just didn't know, right? So to me, it's a great investment. I think any investment in yourself, I think, is a great investment. And I'm in learning. That's my career right now. And in the W-2 world, is I'm a learning professional. So I very, very much value learning. And it's not just at the office. It's not just in the classroom. It's with other people talking, reading, listening, discussing, and you learn a lot.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. So what did you, when you decided, okay, I'm going to do multifamily, I mean, what steps did you take there to get into the deals that you're in? What was that? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So for me, I felt pretty comfortable in the direction I wanted to go. I had talked to a lot of different people that I bounced the ideas off of, and they agreed. So what I ended up doing is, okay, well, I need to get hooked up with somebody that's doing this at a high level. And there's a lot of guys in the GoBundance group that do it at a high level. And there are even some of the guys have their own kind of mentoring programs and things like that.
Yeah.
I ended up getting connected to a guy out of Dallas named Mark Kenny. And Mark runs a group called Think Multifamily. And I ended up talking to him, understanding what he was doing with different folks and kind of helping mentor them to become multifamily real estate investors. And his track record is amazing. And to me, the most important thing, number one, what to me was integrity. Is this person somebody that I think is trustworthy, is somebody with character? And I really got that sense from working with, just talking to him for an hour, that I thought, okay, he and I have the same kind of approach to the way we do business, and that, in my career, it's all about integrity, because that's all they know. That's, your word is, what people think of you is really kind of reality in a way. So I've always been somebody with that kind of a mindset, that of character and integrity being number one. And I found that with him. So I ended up, joining up with him and meeting some of the other people that he's also mentoring as well. And that's how I've gotten in the circle with other folks that are doing different things. I've been focusing a lot lately on capital raising, among other things, but it's been great. He's just as I thought. He really is, the kind of person that I thought he was. He's very transparent. And I've really appreciated that. So again, it's, I took another step to invest in myself, to do that. And so far it's paid off. And you've probably heard this before. I can make a mistake in this business, and it can cost a lot of money if I make a big mistake. Because you're talking about lots of, money. And why risk that? Why not work with somebody that is a seasoned professional, and have them show you, and have them guide you through, I see what you're doing here when you're analyzing this property, but you think about that, you think about this, or I've seen this thing happen, 4 or 5 times before. So I think that might happen here. I mean, it's that kind of experience you can't replicate without just having it. So for me, that was a big attraction. But that's how I got into that world, to be able to now be in my second syndication with Mark.
Yeah, I've seen Mark speak at conferences, and I've heard him on podcast. Actually, I need to get him on this podcast at some point. I've never actually been lucky enough to meet him, but always, at least the impression I get from seeing him speak at conferences, these podcasts, and nice to hear you sort of, kind of confirm that it really is, just kind of seems as a genuine person so I think that's a good pitch for Think Multifamily there. I have no personal affiliation at all, but I have never heard anybody say anything bad about them. So it sounds like it's a great group.
Yeah, and believe me, if I didn't think it was any good, I'd let you know. But it's his family is a great family. His wife is a also a great person, and so just getting to know his family and the rest, it has been pretty cool. So it's been great.
Awesome. You mentioned that you've been, I guess, mainly focused on capital raising. Is that kind of the avenue that you want? Is that the lane you want to stay in, or you're doing that because that was that's kind of a good way to get into the game? What's your feeling on sort of the different seats in a syndication team, and where you feel you fit the best?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is, you mentioned before that we started here this session, we talked a little bit about kind of my experience in HR and I work in teams very well. That's my whole career has been working in teams. And to me, the team aspect of multifamily investing really attracts me as well, because that's something that I'm very comfortable with and I do very well in. And, and I kept hearing people talk about, well, a lot of people struggle with, no, it's just got to be me. And, this kind of, I'm the hero, I'm going to make this happen, I don't need help. And I've never had that bone in my body, really. So I kind of struggle to understand, because it is a thing, right? I keep hearing about it, that especially as you go from single family to bigger properties, you think that, I can do this on my own, I don't need anybody's help. And while it may be true, I think what I'm doing is just being able to share the best of everybody's talents. So for me, the reason I picked capital raising was really because a few reasons. One is because I think I do well with people. I enjoy talking to people, and especially what I've learned about real estate, I think is something that people need to know of what's out there in terms of other options outside of the stock market. Unfortunately, a lot of my wealth right now is in the stock market, and it's not doing that great because of what's going on in the market right now. So it's out of my control. But as I continue to do more and more in the space, I'm going to hopefully be less and less impacted by the swings of the market. So that was one thing. And the other thing too is that it's one of those, capital raising is something that you can do successfully while having a W-2. I enjoy the work that I do at my company. And by no means, do I not like it. I think it's a great company, great leadership, great overall. The people that I work with are awesome. But I wanted to do something that gave me flexibility to be able to work on this with outside of my, 9 to 5 hours, so to speak. And this was something that really felt right. We'll see what happens in the future. I'd love to take a more active role at some point. But for now, it's been great so far. I think this has been a really good fit for me, and it's definitely not easy. I don't have a sales background, or I don't. For me, it's I feel like I connect more one-on-one with individuals just pretty honestly, and I think people appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm doing it my way, and it seems to be working. So that's kind of how I got to that path, so to speak.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of really good points about, especially being able to capital raise, while still having a W-2 job, because capital raising it's just a lot of conversations, right? Like that's, you're explaining these opportunities to people that probably a lot of them aren't familiar, especially, I think people that have been syndicating for forever, they're talking to family offices and private equity funds, and like, yes, they already know what you're talking about. But yeah, I have that similar kind of experience in trying to, when I am capital raising, you're almost starting from like square one, but it's cool because now I think you probably feel the same. Like I've realized the power of this. And I'm so excited about it. And I'm like, okay, I don't care how far we have to back up to get you to understand, but like, this is something you should be involved in because it's big. It's really can be life-changing. So I think those conversations are sometimes tiring in the sense that like you might be, having the same ones over and over again and explaining multiple times, sometimes even to the same people, but I think it's worth it. I think the value that gives them is a really, really truly can be life-changing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, for me, I enjoy conversations. I enjoy meeting people. And, and I have no problem, starting from square one and talking somebody through what this really means and what it can do, and the fact that it can really impact your wealth. You can reduce your taxes, you can reduce your risk. You create passive income streams. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do with this that benefit a lot of people that it's just not known. And maybe you had the same situation that I did. My circle really has no clue what any of this is.
No.
And so, which is a great opportunity, right, to start educating. There's all kinds of money out there talking about Wall Street and talking about mutual funds and this and that and the other, and there's really nothing about this space, which to me, just as I got into it, got surprised. I'm like, why haven't I heard about this before? Like, why am I hearing about this now? And it's I don't know how to explain it, but it is what it is, and here we are, and I'm happy to be on this path to hopefully help other people see the same thing.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's really misguided SEC regulations. That's the reason that people don't hear about it, is because there's so many rules around investing in these private placements versus the stock market. Like, anybody can lose all their money in the stock market. Like, nobody's going to protect you from that, but they'll protect you against these real estate investments. And I'm like, to me, that's a safer vehicle. I don't get it. So I have that same frustration. I'm like, why isn't this something that, like, why can't we advertise all of them? Why can't, there's all these rules, and it's like, I can turn on the TV and see advertisements for all of the stock brokerage accounts. I can pull up the apps on my phone and look at, I have a Robinhood app. Like, it takes 10 seconds to get a Robinhood app. If I wanted to, I could put all my money in one, it just happened. People with the GameStop fiasco, like, people saw, Reddit created this thing, and people tried to jump on that train. A lot of them lost money. I have friends that put money. I was like so disappointed to hear, but like, put some money into that GameStop thing and then lost money. And like, but they can do that, but they can't, like, that same friend, like, it's actually a hard thing for him to get him invested with me. Like, it's kind of like a crazy, to me, backwards way that it's regulated. I don't understand the reason behind it, but I think it's very misguided in terms of, I know they're trying to protect people. I get it. And you should try to protect people, but also, like, why would you protect them from what's this thing and not the stock market, or what, vice versa? It kind of doesn't make sense to me, but
yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's crazy. And the fact that, there's a whole industry around 401ks and all that stuff that's built into, the employment system. I mean, it's been around a long time, and there's a big machine around it. Yeah. Which, but stocks are just one way to invest. I mean, there's all kinds of other ways. Real estate being one of them. I happen to think real estate is a great investment. But is it a good idea to have all of your wealth in the stock market? I don't know. Right now, I'm not doing so great because the market's not doing so
right
well.
Now, it doesn't seem that way. Right now, it doesn't seem that way. But I mean, we had a long bull market in stocks. It's not. I don't think either of us is saying don't invest in stocks. It's just there are other things out there, with real estate being one of them, that you can diversify to reduce your risk, basically, and also there are some really important advantages in real estate investments that you don't get from the stock market. So it's kind of, I think it's education, right? It's just letting people, and that's what's fun about capital raising, right? Like, not the pressure, we need the money to get this deal closed part of it. It's like these people need to know this. Like, people that I know need to know this. And if I can help them get, increase their wealth, then it's worth those conversations. So
for sure.
It's sorry about my rant about the stock market. That SEC topic is like, I find it very frustrating.
I'm with you. I mean, and I say the same thing. It's not that, I say, look, there is a place for the stock market in your portfolio for sure. I mean, there's no question. Right. But 100% stock market? I mean, is that feel right, like maybe some diversification would be a good idea. And that's what I'm trying to do now. I feel like I'm a bit late to it, but that's okay. I'm gonna, get there at some point here or over time. But that's, that's the same argument.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, I've had this, like, I've gone on this rant before, you can probably tell, but I just think it's true. It's like you need to invest in your own education in order to create your own financial literacy. It's not going to do it for, no one's going to do it for you. And the reality is that the way that machine that you said, like, is set up is probably not the most advantaged way for you. Right. For most anybody. It's probably not the best thing you can do. It might be the easiest thing you can do. And I think that's what a lot of the parts of the machine are reliant on, is that we get, if we set up this system, this 401k system, people are going to put money in it. The people that work in the 401k system are going to make money from their money. Like, so there's incentive for them to keep that going, but it's not necessarily the best thing for individuals. It's not a bad thing. It's just not the best thing or the only thing. So I guess that's, I'll stop ranting, but that's kind of it sounds like we're on the same page on that.
Yeah, I think so.
Dan, let's switch gears here a little bit. I want to definitely make sure I have the time to ask you the questions that I like to ask every guest. Yeah. The first one, and I think you touched on it some, but the name of the show is Know Your Why. And so I always ask everybody, what is your why? What drives you towards this, this success? And like I said, I know you mentioned some of it, but I'd love for you to kind of expand on that and really tell us what you're passionate about.
Yeah. I mean, I think my why, I think at this point is probably obvious, but I've got, one big why is just gratitude and gratefulness for the opportunity that I have right now, being in this country, and being able to live the American dream, frankly, to be able to have the opportunities to do multifamilies, investing, or whatever it might be. It's just something that you don't realize what that means unless you don't have it. And it's when I talk to my family in Cuba, when I talk to other people that are in different situations, it becomes very clear. So for me, it's about two things. One is this is my one at bat. So I'm going to maximize my at bat and do as best as I can to make the most of my opportunity in this world. And then two, helping people that my family got help, and what can I do to help the next person? That to me is something that for decades now I've had that mindset. So for me, that's the why.
Fantastic. Tell us something about yourself that not everybody knows. Special, or a hobby, a special skill, so anything. It sounds like you're fluent in Spanish, so you sort of already gave that one away. Can't use that again.
Yeah, can't use that one. I toured the country playing trumpet for a while.
Oh wow!
I was in college. I was considering being a music major, just because I loved music so much. And for a summer, I went around the country playing, and it was fun. But I realized I'm just not good enough to make a living from playing a trumpet. So I wisely moved on to other avenues. But that's something that was pretty cool that not everybody does. So
yeah, do you still play?
Not too much. I get a lot of looks around the house if I start pulling out a horn. So
yeah, I feel like maybe it's not so much of a solo instrument at home, sort of, right, like people exactly. that strum on a guitar, but that's super cool. I'm a huge music fan, so I love.
Oh, cool!
I love the. I never trained. Like I never really got well trained in any instrument. I taught myself guitar, and I just love music in general, and I'm fascinated by people that can play any instrument or sing. Like I just think it's such a kind of a magical skill to have. I really enjoy that.
it's self-fulfilling, and it's something that I listen to a lot of music. I watch YouTube videos about music. I often, so I try to, stay into it because for me, it's enjoyable, but I'm not a great player or anything. So,
if you toured the country, you can't be bad. So now you're just being modest. But when people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Well, they can go to my website, avanzainvest.com, AVANZA invest.com. Or if they want to shoot me an email, it's dan@avanzainvest.com.
Okay. We'll put that in the show notes too, so people have it. But I imagine that get a lot of emails after this. Last question for you, Dan. What piece of advice would you give to someone who's getting started? Right, they're if you started with the pandemic, so they're 2 years behind you. What would you tell them to help kind of move them forward?
Well, the way I think of it is just moving, just making, even if you're not quite sure where to go. One analogy that I've heard before that to me made a lot of sense was, you can't really steer a bicycle when you're not moving. Like the bicycle, you can only steer it and turn it if it's moving, the whole thing. Yeah. So, get moving in a certain direction. If you think here's what I want to look into, I want to go into, then start going that way. And you can always course correct. You can always change. What you want to avoid is just not moving, and that I know for a lot of people is very difficult. And it's not easy for anybody, but that's the one thing I think that helps you become, do what you want to do in life.
Yeah. I think a lot of what holds people back is just those first few steps. Yeah. Like just actually taking those first few steps in any direction, or sticking with the bicycle analogy, starting to pedal, so you can get moving is so important. It's easy to get caught and just sit there, right, and not kind of push yourself forward. So great piece of advice. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate having you on. I really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I've enjoyed the conversation as well. And I told you, a little earlier, I felt like I kind of know you after, watching and listening to some of your episodes. And it's a great podcast. So congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. All right. With that, we will go ahead and sign out.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.